Finally, after echoing through the near-empty classroom, Ventus took a drink. Um, so the heavenly sound of the final bell. Bring, bring, bring. After about 30 seconds, Marcel stood. Cindy noticed with a hint of excitement that he'd already had his bag packed in anticipation. Um, yeah. Call Chris Hansen. He plopped on his wide brim hat and said, as he passed her on his way down, "I'll pull my car up front." He gave her a little wink before leaving the room. I'm trying to make a Clint Eastwood pun, but none's come to my mind. But yeah, Marcel probably looks like a cowboy because he's got that wide. Oh, interesting. He's got that wide brimmed hat. So, she waited until she couldn't stand to wait anymore. Then followed him out of the classroom, turned off the light, closing the door behind her. Even though no one was really looking, Cindy could have sworn that all eyes were on her as she pushed through the front doors of the school. Come on, Cindy. Relax. You're just going to bang some old vampire dude in his house. I don't know. I probably wouldn't. I can tell you, I definitely wouldn't bang some old vampire dude in his house. Maybe if it was an old vampire chick. Still, when I was in high school, I wouldn't have done that. But I'm not, some witch with no perspective, stolen from a demon. But whatever. So Cindy could have sworn that apologies, Hedgehog, please edit that out. She huddled in her coat and fuzzy scarf as she looked around for a moment, trying to figure out what car was on the street in front was his. It's probably something pretty old. Yep, it's a Ford Falcon. So she saw the Ford Falcon. Wet bus stop. He sees her. His car is warm and dry. Fun fact, did you guys know that Sting actually wrote the hook for Money for Nothing? I want my MTV. It's the same melody as Don't Stand So Close to Me. So, it's like, I want my MTV. Look at that, Hedgehog. That's the way you do it. You go on YouTube and read Ely Valley. Now if that ain't working, that's the way you do it. Get your money for nothing and your boyfriend for free. We got a install microwave ovens, a custom kitchen deliveries. We got to move these refrigerators. We got to move these color TVs. All right, I really got to focus up here. It's already been like a half hour, and I'm barely a third of the way through the story. Woo! All right, so Cindy hurried over, trying not to look too creepily excited. Yeah, because it's the girl who's the creepily excited one. All right, and not the 2,000-year-old vampire who should get Chris Hansen called on his ass. Anyway, so the old passenger door creaked in the cold, but she wrenched it open and slid into the leather seat. As soon as she slammed the door behind her, Marcel just took off, just fast as a speeding bullet. Vroom! And it wasn't until after they were off school property and not committing a felony. I don't know. Is that a felony? I guess it depends what state it's in. That he let out the breath that he'd been holding. Do vampires really need to breathe? I think that was more torturous than that prison. I don't think Versailles has prison. I thought it was the Bastille, but then again, could be held in a special Versailles dungeon, by Louis XIV, the Sun King. That's actually a pretty good show. I don't know if they still have it on Netflix anymore. So he was joking about that. So apparently it didn't mentally scar him for life. You were born in a prison in Versailles? No, that's Javert. I am from the gutter too. I was born. I can't even remember my lines from Les Mis. Well, I was Thénardier, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway. You were in a prison in Versailles? Cindy raised her. Love, I've been in prisons everywhere. Nearly got hanged for witchcraft twice. I turned someone into a newt. They got better. Sydney shook her head. There's so much I don't know about you. There's a lot to know, love. He shrugged, watching the cracked road as they bumped down 6th Street.
I doubt I'll ever know everything. Will I?
You know nothing, Sidney Miller. He glanced over to her for just a split second, his burgundy eyes, bright against the gloom of the car. Probably not. Staring at the dash. Sidney thought about that for a moment. I guess that's
something I'll have to live with then.
There was silence in a car, but she could hear him breathe out. A second later, his eyes widened. Oh, damn it all!
What?
Sidney asked, concerned. I just remembered that I don't have any actual food in the house.
Oh, is that all?
Cindy smiled.
We could just get a pizza.
Is that all right? He asked, looking a little sheepish. Just pizza?
I'd be happy eating raw chicken liver if it was with you.
She immediately cringed from the cheesy word. I mean, yeah, that's not just cheesy. That's like mozzarella plus cheesy squeeze plus it's like every single cheese that what was his name? Michael Palin. It's like every single cheese that Michael Palin did not have in the cheese shop sketch. That's how cheesy it was. So she cringed from that cheesiness. But he didn't take it badly as she feared. He just chuckled and shook his head. Now that's dedication. I wouldn't wish raw chicken liver on my own worst enemy. I'm a lucky man.
That's right,
Sidney grinned.
You'd better count your lucky stars you found me.
I never said I hadn't been. Now that's treacly as fuck. I mean, that's cringy. That's a cringy line, Marcel. I mean, you're 2,000 years old. You should know better. 20 minutes later, Cindy's hand was resting on the warm pizza, nestled in between them on a bench seat. Dude, Marcel, yeah, because it's a Ford Falcon. Now, bench seats are the best things for cars. Dude, I freaking love bench seats. You know these bucket seats we have nowadays with consoles in the middle. They're lame. Dude, cars from the 80s, 70s, and 60s. Yeah, I wish I had Steve McQueen's car from Bullitt. Dude, is Steve McQueen still alive? Okay, I gotta get back to this, or I'm never gonna finish this before midnight. So she was staring out the window, watching the cold November rain that had begun to fall. I guess this isn't in Wisconsin because it's warm and it's not caught in the polar vortex. But, she really wasn't that nervous anymore. He told her, we'll bang, okay? And she's like, okay. So, they're going to bang. So she thought that her nervousness would come back, later, of course. But for now, she was feeling calm and maybe even happy. And it was surprising to her, the feeling of warmth that started in her chest and face and flowed out there from the rest of her body. It wasn't the fake kind of happiness that she felt. I don't understand what you mean, Hedgehog. Fake kind of happiness that felt when she was playing a good game or got a day off? That felt hollow and forced compared to now. I mean, I guess you've understood real happiness better than I have. And I guess that's why you're probably talking to Dragon right now while I'm drinking beer and reading the story. Wow, I'm making myself depressed. All right, time to keep going. So it was more like that feeling when she used magic. Interesting. I've never used magic. I don't know what that's like. But when she next looked up, she realized they had crossed the invisible barrier into Snob Hill. Snob Hill! It was a neighborhood that crisscrossed one of the hills that bordered the suburb. But all the houses there were large and old, and so it had been dubbed the titular... God damn it! The titular nickname by the residents of the valley below. You live on Snob Hill, Cindy asked.
You live on Snob Hill, Cindy asked.
Snob Hill, he laughed out loud. I had forgotten about that. That is what the plebs are... The plebeians. You plebeians are calling it now, isn't it? Sidney, you're a plebeian. That's a good neg right there. Not that I'd ever have the courage to talk to anybody. God, I live a sad life. Please edit the past 15 seconds out, Hedgehog. Cindy opened her mouth, but she had no idea how to respond to that. Seeing her expression, Marcel laughed again. I'm kidding. He flicked her forehead. That's abusive. I don't know. That's an anime thing. That's like a Chinese cartoon. Flicking. I mean, can you really imagine a scenario in real life where you flick someone's forehead? That's like humiliating and demeaning. I don't know. I'm not a 2,000-year-old vampire or an 18-year-old girl, so what do I know? I'm kidding, he flicked her forehead playfully. I've owned this house since before the bourgeoisie. Bourgeois. I'm going to pronounce it Bourgeois because I don't give a... You know what I'm talking about. At that moment, he pulled off the road into a near vertical driveway, the Ford Falcon straining, Thundercougar Falconbird. Above them was a small old house, its wood supports clinging onto the hillside for dear life. Marcel, you need a general contractor to fix up your house. The paint was faded but not peeling, the windows sun-bleached but not dusty. I traveled a lot before I took the teaching job. Marcel looked up at it fondly. How does a vampire get a passport? I mean, you gotta have like a birth certificate. I mean, that's a lot of logistical problems. I mean, you gotta pretend to be somebody else like every 20 years. I mean, granted, I have a 10-year-old passport and a 10-year-old driver's license, but, you know, I mean, that's just got to be confusing. But anyway, Marcel looked it up at fondly. But this was always a nice place to come back to.
Then you've been in Edie Valley longer than I thought.
Yes, imagine my surprise when the very truth I was searching the world for was right here all along. Sydney thought about that for a second. It really was, maybe it was certainly strange, side note, certainly an author writing in the plot how the universe worked, how she'd always assumed there was no happiness in this town for her, and yet here she was, an entirely different person than who she'd been mere months ago, happy in Edie Valley of all places. I mean, you just add an end to that and it's Eden Valley, so, not that surprising. She didn't really know how to vocalize that thought. She should have talked to me. I'd vocalize that thought for her perfectly fine. Nor whether it was even the right time to say it.
It's a nice house,
she said instead. It is, isn't it? He grinned and grabbed the pizza. He opened the car door, and Cindy made to follow, but he held out his free hand. Oh, what a gentleman. Wait. Even though the rain quickly soaked his hair and shoulders, he went around. Is he not wearing he should wear a raincoat. I mean, if he knows it's going to be rain, wear a raincoat. It's simple as that. He went around and opened the car door for her. Shall we? She rolled her eyes, but let him.
I know you're not hip with the new kids, old man, but people don't really do that anymore.
You have to at least give me that, he said as they ran up the moss-covered steps toward the door.
Well, I will admit it's very flattering.
She glanced up at him.
But the instant you expect me to make you a sandwich, we're through.
I mean, come on, sandwiches are nice. Although, honestly, I'd rather just go to, the local deli and get a sandwich than ask anybody to make it for me. Because they make sandwiches really damn good at my local deli. Anyway, Marcel was fumbling for his keys with his free hand. I don't eat sandwiches. I only drink blood because I'm a vampire.
You know what I mean, she said. Here, let me take that, or does chivalry forbid it?
No, chivalry's an ancient battle... Not an ancient battle, a medieval battle code. So chivalry forbids... I don't know what chivalry forbids. All I know is, jousting. I don't even know jousting. I don't know what I know anymore. Anyway, Cindy reached for the pizza to take the pizza so he could open the house. It pains me, he grimaced, but yes, please. The lid of the cardboard box was slightly melted by the rain. That's really bad quality cardboard. I guess they didn't go to Domino's or Papa John's, probably a local pizza place or something like that. But Marcel had done a decent job of shielding it. The underside warmed her hands as she waited for him to find the right key and jiggle it in the lock. It stuck a little. Dude really needs to get a general contractor to spruce up the house. I mean, he's a 2,000-year-old vampire. He probably invested in the Medici's bank. He's probably fucking loaded. I mean, at very least, the guy could just go over to Britain, and point archaeologists to a dig site and say, oh yeah, mates, give me my 5% finder's fee. Anyway, dude really needs to fix up his house. The door finally opened. It was one of those old doors that had real weight to it. I mean, my door has real weight to it. Is it old? I don't know. I thought everybody's door had weight to it. But Marcel turned on the light switch inside so the interior wasn't so gloomy and gestured to her. Age before beauty. Wait, no, that's the wrong way around. After you, beauty before age. She stepped over the threshold. Wait, isn't there like some sort of myth? No, vampires have to be invited. So can vampires have houses? I guess they can. Do they have to invite themselves into their house? So anyway, she went into the house and into the small entryway. To the left was a mat for storage, for shoes. To the right, a small closet, which Marcel ducked into after taking her coat. And directly ahead was a staircase that led up into the house proper. Up there, she really couldn't see much, partially because it was dark as fuck and the lights weren't on. And Marcel had all the curtains shut because he was a vampire. But after a second, he flipped a few more switches and Sydney followed him up the stairs.
This doesn't really look like a vampire's lair,
she commented, glancing around at the decidedly monstrous fissure. What did you expect, he said, leaning on the kitchen island where Cindy set the pizza.
I don't know. Black and red color scheme, gothic lighting fixtures, stone altar with a goat's head.
No, that's Satanists.
I mean, come on! Isn't there a single coffin anywhere in sight?
I am so glad that phase is over, Marcel rolled his eyes.
Phase?
It's all because of the Romantics, he shook his head. There was a period of time around the Victorian era where some of my kin got the idea into their heads that the only way to get close to the death they'd lost was to sleep in the coffin, or, just throw yourself into a wood chipper. I mean, or burn yourself alive, or crosses, or garlic, or, there's a lot of ways to kill yourself if you're a vampire, I feel. I don't understand that. Well, anyway, I guess Marcel didn't understand it too. That's why he has no coffins. Cindy glanced over to him.
That sounds really overdramatic.
Yes, it was. The problem with events like this, Cindy realized, is that they were both too awkward to figure out when the appropriate time had arrived to start anything. I mean, come on, Marcel's 2,000 years old. I don't know. I guess sometimes people are just awkward. Whatever. I mean, I'm pretty awkward, and I don't know, man. I'm going to keep going. They really didn't know when to bang, So Cindy figured that it started with kissing and then just kind of escalated from there, which makes sense. But she never thought too hard about when exactly the kissing happened, because there'd always been much more pressing issue when the kissing couldn't happen, like at school, or when it shouldn't happen, which is like whenever, because he's a 2,000-year-old vampire and she's an 18-year-old girl, and basically Chris Hansen should be busting into his house any second there and telling Marcel, why don't you have a seat over there? But he didn't, so we're going to keep reading after this short little drink. And now here they were, with a whole house to themselves. No fear of discovery, except, the fear of discovery. It was somewhat thrilling, but also a little terrifying. They talked about this and that as they ate their pizza, Marcel's annoying students, the new spell Cindy was working on to trick the bank website into transferring money to her account. I mean, come on, Some people actually need, whatever. And she didn't have the usual fare.
So wait, you can eat pizza?
She asked him at one point. I mean, I can, he said, taking a bite. Unfortunately, more normal food just tastes kind of like dust. But after a time, most of the pizza was gone, and Cindy knew that it was only a matter of time until they banged. Yet, she also knew that Marcel was sometimes too gentlemanly for his own good. This was going to have to be up to her, wasn't it? She's going to have to take the lead. Just do it, Cindy. It's 2019. It's just do it. Look, she said finally,
I don't really do any of that coy bullshit. So I've got no other way to say it, but at some point something's gotta happen, and I really want to bang you. Like, right now, I'm horny.
and she could see something change in him, a sudden alertness. He smirked, tilting his head. Yeah?
So how do we start?
So he slipped around the counter, vampire and all that stuff. His movements nearly predatory. I don't know. It should probably have scared her, but it didn't, because, she wanted to bang him. Quite the contrary, she suddenly felt herself drawn to him like a magnet. Well, usually it starts like this. And suddenly, he began swinging his arms side to side. Music began playing in the background. Went bop, ba-da-da, bop, ba-da-da, bop, ba-da-da. And so he swung his arms side to side, moved his feet. He was basically mimicking a certain dance from a certain free-to-play, extremely popular video game. Cindy watched all this, and she became very moist. So yeah, that was foreplay. So while dancing the Carlton dance, which has been stolen by aforementioned free-to-play popular video game, Marcel danced her into bed. She sat back hard on the bed. She made sure that her legs weren't going to support. She was sure that her legs were not going to support her too much longer anyway. Yeah, I guess. I'm not gonna. Yeah. So she took off her sweat. She got undressed. So she felt cold when Marcel's eyes swept over him, and he was hungry because he wanted to bang him. She wanted to bang him. He wanted to bang her. She wanted to bang him. Standard shit. Then he was guiding her down into the bed, his shirt unbuttoned. Then he got undressed, and he was over her, kissing her neck, but not biting because he didn't want to drain her of her blood. His hand trailed across her breast, down her stomach, before questing under her jeans. Third base, I don't know. She fumbled with the button for a moment, too distracted by the feel of his lips to handle anything too dexterous. But in a second, they were gone too, and here she was. Wait, her lips were gone too? No, the jeans were gone too. And here she was, the most naked she'd been in front of another person since the age of 3. What was she doing naked at the age of 3? Let's keep going. There was something terrifying about it. The vulnerability, the cold, but it was Lucas next to her, and she was unsure that whatever happened, she would be okay. Now, I've learned from experience, he said in a low, calm voice, that most virgins aren't really big enough down there the first time. What? I don't know. I didn't write it. I'm just reading it. I'm going to help out a little, so hopefully it doesn't hurt as much. So, yeah, foreplay. I guess the Fortnite dances weren't enough. I mean, I don't know. Whenever I dance, people seem to... Gotta get better at dancing, Lucky. Lucius Marcel. Okay. She barely managed to hiss the word. Okay. She barely managed to hiss the word as his fingers continued down between his legs. Focus on him, his voice, his lips, she instructed himself. Not on how scared you feel, not on how inherently strange this is. Because it did hurt a little. But he went slow, paused when she inhaled a sharp breath. After a minute, it was better, and he went on just a tiny bit further. A small moan escaped her lips. Ah. It was so strange that she had to pause. She had never heard anyone make a sound like that, not even in the movies. I mean, I don't know. But, whatever. But there was only one person here to hear her, so what did it matter? It didn't matter. You guys are going to bang anyway, and he's 2,000 years old. He's probably heard a bunch of that. All right, he said then. I'll get a condom. Maybe from Hedgehog's infinite condom wardrobe or whatever. I don't know.
Wait, you're technically dead, aren't you?
Necrophilia. She asked out of sheer curiosity. He shrugged. technically, but you never know what 1,000-year-old disease might be lurking down there. I'll be right back." He kissed her softly. Also, he didn't want to recreate the plot of Twilight by putting some sort of half-human, half-vampire baby in her. So, good job on avoiding that, Hedgehog. So he was across the room. Wasn't a very big room, but for some reason the gap suddenly felt enormous because, she was waiting for him to put the condom on so they could bang. Cindy lay back on the bed, breathing heavily, her heart racing. She's horny. Everything felt eerily clear, her nerves tingling at the slightest movement. She didn't quite know what to make of it. All she could do was lay there and try not to panic. Okay. But before she had time to figure out exactly how to react, Marcel was back, and she realized two things in quick succession. He was big, which led directly to this was going to be painful. I don't know how she knew he was going to be big. I guess she watched a lot of porn. And, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm going to trust Hedgehog in this because she knows better than I do what women feel like when they're having sex. So, yep. Maybe he noticed the look on her face because he grabbed her legs and he leaned down over and said, "I'm going to go slow, okay?" She gulped and nodded, "Okay." And apparently it did hurt. A lot. And Cindy bit her tongue to keep from crying out. And then after a moment she felt something give, and she did cry out as she felt him beside her, but not from pain. But as a second later, Marcel straightened and froze. Premature ejaculation.
"What's wrong?" she asked, nearly panicking.
Yeah. "Oh, it's nothing. I just jizzed in my pants." He sounded oddly strange. "It's just blood, because, he's a vampire." Oh. She realized then just how dangerous this could be. I don't know, how do vampires react to blood in Hedgehog's universe? I don't know. I don't think we've actually seen that yet. Should I? It's fine. He shook his head. "I expected this. It's not very much." He leaned down again, staring into her eyes. His irises were brighter than usual. Red. Blood red. Scarlet crimson. The Crimson Court in the Court of the Crimson King. "I was going to try to be gentle, but I don't think I can promise that now." He was breathing pretty heavily because vampire and blood. Cindy put a hand to his cheek and met his gaze.
"I don't want you to be."
Oh, looks like she's really getting into it. It was pain. Pain and noise and heat and red. Red. It was something. Wow. Pain and noise and heat and red. Yeah. It was pain and noise and heat and red. It was red. It was pain, noise, and heat. Life tomorrow. I'm trying to make a Macbeth reference, but I can't reference Macbeth because I'm just too. I can't remember the exact quote I'm looking for. But Cindy's whole body felt red. How does one feel red? Like, how does one feel yellow? Is that like being a coward? How does one feel blue? Right now I feel kind of. How do I feel right now? I feel kind of amber. Like an amber. No, a purplish amberish haze. Purple haze all in my brain. Cindy also probably feels a purple haze. It skews her while she kisses this guy. But, anyway. She knew the pain would, Cindy's whole body felt red, but underneath all that was something good. And she knew that soon the pain would go away, and that all remained this intriguing feeling. Maybe it wouldn't be this time, or the next one, or the next day, or the next day, and 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 the next day, but soon. Afterward, so she didn't ahego. This is not like my Chinese cartoons at all. Hentai lied to me. Afterwards, they lay together on the bed, Cindy's head resting over her chest. For a while, they just breathed and smoked their cigarettes, took in the feeling of their bodies together.
Together forever and never to part. Together forever with you. And don't you know I would move heaven and earth to be together forever with you?
All right. So Cindy ached everywhere, throbbed, but it felt good. Guess she didn't orgasm, but she'll do that next day, or the next day, or the next day, or the next day. So she finally scratched a powerful itch that she'd been trying to ignore for years, but had never gone away.
God, that was...
She began finally. Yeah? She shook her head.
I can't even begin to describe it.
He laughed. Ha 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 ha! And she felt the vibration against her ear. It made her smile. Many people have tried, he said.
Just wow!
And that's just about as accurate as it gets. They kissed a little more and lay together. Oh, so he doesn't have round two in him. I guess he's an old man. He probably doesn't have the virility of a teenager. But Cindy suddenly felt so utterly exhausted that she couldn't do much of anything. That heightened sensation left her, replaced by a warm feeling of numbness. I have become comfortably numb. I wonder if her arms feel like two balloons. So, yeah, that felt good too. She felt comfortably numb. Should we go watch a movie? Marcel asked finally, and Cindy nodded. A minute later, they were back in his cozy living room, Cindy cuddled by a fuzzy robe. Marcel put her arm behind her, and she leaned into him. And in that moment, everything seemed absolutely fine. But then, Marcel flicked on the TV, and it turned over to C-SPAN. And then there were people arguing in the Senate chamber and all that shit, and the government was shut down and came back online. And then somebody talked about Howard Stern's penis, and then they flicked over the news. And then they said, St. Adelaide's has been taken over by unstable students. Why don't they just send in the SWAT team? Why don't they just send in the cops? I don't get it, man. A couple tasers would knock these kids on their asses. Word had finally reached us as to the goings-on at St. Adelaide's School for Gifted Youth via the text of several students to their friends and parents. It was a newswoman. I should have done that. I'm going to do that differently.
Word has finally reached us as to the goings-on at St. Adelaide's School for Gifted Youth via the text of several students to their friends and parents.
The newswoman looked grave.
Quote, she outed the director and locked the gate. She said she'll let us leave Friday morning.
End quote. The she
referred to as allegedly Jilly Nakajima, former Japanese pop idol, who assaulted this. What was her name? It shares a name with one of the Puella Imagine, the red chick, Sakura. No, Kyoko. She assaulted Kyoko with a chair because Kyoko got mommy's head bitten off. No, wait, that's also Madoka. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, because Jilly kicked Kyoko's ass with a chair. Because Kyoko did something. I don't remember. But yeah, so Cindy didn't hear the rest of it. She was frozen in panic because, Mike Miller, I think that's the name of a rap art. No, that's Mac Miller. It's Mac Miller. Or Mark Miller. Or Marky Mark in the Funky Bunch. No, that's Mark Wahlberg. That's Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg. I'm thinking of Mark Wahlberg. So she was panicking because, Mark goes... Michael goes there. And... So she couldn't give in to the panic. First step, grab her phone. What are you doing? Marcel asked, as Cindy frantically reached for her phone. I've got to call Tommy!
Tommy, can you hear me? She said. That's school, Marcel. Isn't that where your brother?
Yes!
Cindy held the phone to her ear. After a second of ringing, there was a small click. This is a smiling goat! Thank God it was Tommy and not Simon Cowell, who would tell her that her voice was awful, just shit.
Tommy, can you hear me? Can you help but hear you? Ooh, Tommy. Tommy?
Because Tommy's a pinball wizard. Ever since I was a young boy, I played the silver ball. From Soho down to Brighton, I must have seen 'em all. But I ain't seen nothing like him in any amusement hall. That deaf, dumb, and blind kid sure plays a mean pinball. Tommy, Cindy cried and failed to keep her.
Turn on the news.
Why?
It's Mike. He's in trouble, and he's going to need all the help he can get.
And that is my rendition of A Clear Night Before the Storm. An Edie Valley story by the one and only extremely agitated hedgehog.